So I wanted you to see my favorite t-shirt. I don't know if you can really see it all that good. I have a whole blog about this.
It's hard to miss, really.
Essentially, it's this concept. A, big A inside a circle. So, do you know where I got this t-shirt? So this is crew swag from the Avengers movie. And this gave me a lot of geek cred. At the Buddhist Geeks a couple of years ago, you may remember their first meeting. I was the keynote speaker, and I wore this during the conference because the movie hadn't come out yet. So that's what gave me the geek cred, right? I had like stuff from the movie before it was available to the public. So I was over at their place, and he had all this crew swag. So you could take whatever you want. And this immediately jumped out. So you may or may not have an idea of why. But take a look. It's A, first letter of the alphabet, inside a circle. So does that set off any possible associations, Buddhist-wise?
Anicca?
Good guess. Not completely unrelated. Well, the circle, called Enso, E-N-S-O, you can look it up on the Wikipedia. The circle is used a lot in Zen for the obvious symbolism of the fullness that is also empty. For example, in Soto Zen, and actually some Rinzai also, when you sit with this mudra, this circular mudra. This is called the Dharma Dhatu Samadhi Mudra. I love the name. Dharma Dhatu means the realm of the Dharma, the realm of the Absolute. Samadhi is samadhi, in this case concentration, and mudra is a hand gesture. So this is sort of like the cosmic samadhi hand gesture. So there's, I saw the circle immediately and its associations and its meanings. But what really jumped out was the letter A in the middle of it. It reminded me of something from the school of my original ordination, which is Japanese Shingon. Shingon is Japanese Vajrayana practice. And as you no doubt know, visualizations are a fairly central part, both in the Tibetan versions of Vajrayana and in the Japanese version. And there is a practice that is done not only by the monks, but by householders, the average lay people in Japan that are associated with the Shingon school. They're taught this very simple visualization called ajikan. So kan means a visualization. It's the same kan as in like kanzeon, so it means contemplate. Actually, kanzeon means see the world's sounds, but by extension, contemplate and so forth. So that's this kan character. Ji is the same as in kanji. It means a character. So what does A mean? Well, A is not just the first letter in the English alphabet. One version or another of it is the first letter in the Greek alphabet, alpha. It's also the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, aleph, which pretty much sounds like alpha, and that's no coincidence. And it's also the first letter in all of the alphabets of India. specifically Devanagari, which is the Sanskrit alphabet used in North India. A is the first letter. So this is not a coincidence. The alphabet is one of the most extraordinary cases of cultural diffusion known to anthropology. It was invented once. There actually is just one alphabet. It was invented once about 1000 BC in what's now Lebanon, essentially, which was the center of Phoenician culture. And the Phoenicians were sort of the northern cousins of the Israelites, essentially the same language, Biblical Hebrew. Phoenicians very similar to that. So they invented this alphabet, Aleph Bet, Gimel Dalet He Vav Zayin, okay, in the Hebrew order, and that diffused. The Greeks picked it up from the Phoenicians. The Etruscans picked it up from the Greeks. The Romans picked it up from the Etruscans, and we, English speakers, picked it up from the Romans. So it went west, but it also went east. As the Aramaic script, which is what's used to write Hebrew now, that's actually Aramite. That's actually the Aramaic version of the alphabet, derived from the Phoenician. And then it spread and became the Arabic alphabet, used all over the Islamic world. It spread further east. Aramaic script was introduced into the eastern part of the empire of Alexander the Great during the Hellenistic period, and was modified and became Devanagari, the alphabet used for Sanskrit. That spread down into South India. And the cultures influenced by India through Buddhism, Tibet. In fact, if you sort of squint your eyes and look at Tibetan, and you squint your eyes and look at Hebrew, they sort of look similar. That's not a coincidence. That's like totally amazing. That is not a coincidence. Okay? The Tibetan script is derived from a form of Devanagari. Devanagari is derived from essentially the same alphabet used to write Hebrew. They both go back to the Phoenician. But it gets more interesting. It spreads even further. Because mantras are important in Vajrayana practice, so you visualize the letters, you chant the letters. So when the Japanese picked up Vajrayana, with it came a knowledge of how to write Sanskrit in an Indic alphabet. Now they write with a brush, but they write the letters of a modified form of Devanagari called Siddham alphabet. So to this day, monks in my school learn how to write the mantras in the actual Indic script, not relying on kanji or Chinese characters or kana. So that means that all the way from Japan in the east to England and Wales in the west, that single alphabet spread, diffused. So the first letter of the alphabet is A, or Aleph, or A. And in the Sanskrit language, as in the Greek language, A, or An, it's the same thing, is negation. It's the negation, right? Symmetry, symmetric, asymmetric. Think of any Greek word and the opposite of it, the negation of it, will have an A. What are some other examples? Typical, atypical. Great. What are some other examples? Yeah, we use that one. Huh?
Atheistic.
Atheistic, without theos, without God. So, the letter A is the Great Negator. Okay? So the ajikan, the contemplation of the letter A, is used to not at first to develop, of course, concentration power through visualization, but then to lead you to the insight of the Great Negation. What is the Great Negation? Well, the unborn state. And what is the unborn state? Well, you've all meditated on it many, many times with my system. Gone. Okay? So A stands for gone, as the source of all things. It's the great, the rich nothingness, the nada, the nihil per excellentiam, the nothing par excellence, whence our sensory experience arises and whither it returns moment by moment, whether we notice that or not. And as we notice it more and more, we're called more and more enlightened. So it immediately jumped out to me that, wow, this is a really cool t-shirt, because it's got both the enso, which is sort of like the Zen symbol for the rich nothingness, and it's got the the alpha privative, it's called, the A that negates, symbolizing the primordial state of the unbornness. Aji hon pusho, they say in Japanese. That the character points to the original face. They don't use that phrase, but the before your parents were born, you know the Zen expression, before your parents were born, right? Before expansion and contraction separated, you had a face. What was it? Well, it would be the face of zero now, wouldn't it? The primordial unborn. So I thought, there's a lot of Buddhist meaning in the Avengers movie. So that was a piece of crew swag that that I grabbed.